Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. A warm welcome to the second episode of Season 2 of Youth Lounge, brought to you by TPS Bangalore East. This is the talk show where excellence meets inspiration in a dynamic exchange of ideas and skills. We are your hosts, Tanvi and Mayur, presenting to you Youth Lounge's Season 2, Episode 2. This talk show is on air for students all across the globe to see live on YouTube. With this, we hope to spread the valuable gold pot of advice our alumni present here today will share with us.
On this episode, we welcome the alumni of our very own school who have achieved success by maneuvering hardships and tackling problems head on, as most of us here will have to experience in the near future. We hope that with this episode, you can put yourself in their shoes and feel less anxious diving into the challenges of adulthood. Now, we would like to begin with a small introduction of our guests.
Today, we have with us our first guest, who is dynamic and flamboyant, Mr. Vedant Paul Mokha, an alumnus of DPS Bangalore East of batch 2015-16, who had also been the school vice head boy in the year 2014-15. He graduated from the University of Technology of Belfort, Montbéliard, France. He is a highly skilled aerospace systems engineer working as a cost engineer at the company OHB System AG in Germany, one of Europe's leading large system space integrators. Before joining OHB, he was working at the European Space Agency for 2 years. Vedant's career is marked by diverse experiences, including internships focused on thermal comfort engineering for electric vehicles at Stellantis, project management at Peugeot Motorcycles, and programming at Numtech Sarl. With a master's degree in mechanical engineering, specializing in mechatronics, design, and product development, Vedant has cultivated a strong foundation in both practical and theoretical aspects of engineering. His contributions to multiple scientific publications and projects demonstrate his commitment to advancing the field of aerospace engineering. Proficient in multiple languages and technical skills, Vedant continues to drive innovation and efficiency in his current role at OHB System AG. A very warm welcome to you, Mr. Vedant.
Thank you so much. I'm super excited to be here. Thank you for having me, and thank you for that lovely presentation.
Now, for our second guest, the brilliant and charismatic Mr. Rahul Goradia, who is an alumnus of the batch 2015-16 DPS Bangalore East. Rahul is a seasoned UX designer with an extensive experience in designing applications and is currently empowering search experiences at Microsoft. With a strong background in interaction design, he holds a bachelor's degree from Pest University, where he graduated with a 9.5 CGPA, earning a scholarship for him being in the top 20% of his class. Before joining Microsoft, Rahul played a pivotal role in the growth of some of India's largest startups, including Zomato and Meesho. Rahul is also an expert in solving complex real world problems, translating them into digital solutions through intuitive interfaces. His expertise has led him to share his insights as a speaker at Figma's Config conference, one of the world's premier design events. Now, Rahul is focused on harnessing the power of AI to help users achieve more in their everyday lives. He is passionate about the intersection of technology and human experience, aiming to create products that not only serve but also inspire. Beyond his professional work, Rahul is an avid traveler with a goal to visit 30 countries before turning 30. He is also training to complete a full marathon. And an adventurer at heart, Rahul is a cinematic videographer who has already explored 11 countries with plans to visit 19 more in the next 5 years. Please join me in extending a warm welcome to Mr. Rahul Goradia.
Hey guys, thank you so much for the lovely introduction. Really happy to be here, back at school, as I would say. Yeah, thank you so much.
Now, if you both are comfortable, may we begin with the interview session?
Yeah, sure. Let's kick it off.
Yes, yes, of course.
All right. My first question goes to Mr. Rahul. User experience design is the process of designing products that are easy and fun to use. When and how did you decide to be a UX designer, and what goals did you strive to achieve this path?
Yeah. So just to be completely candid and honest, I didn't know anything about design until 12th grade. So I was in the computer science class. Like you have a bunch of students with you. They're all training for IIT engineering because that's some of the ways we've been grown up with, right? Uh, but my dad happened to find an ad for the IIT Bombay design exam, and when I looked about what design is, I just noticed that that's what I've been doing all my life. I have a good eye for craft. I know how to solve real world problems. I'm good with human beings. So I eventually started to explore design, and that's how I ended up in this field. um, yeah.
Your journey is quite insightful, and I hope our viewers will take a bit of it and be inspired from it as well.
Thank you.
Now, our first question for Mr. Vedant. How is being a college student in France different from being a high school student in India? And can you give some advice to students who want to pursue their higher education abroad?
Yes, of course. So as I was in the same class as Rahul, and I was, of course, in computer science, and I wanted to pursue mechanical engineering. And I was, of course, training for, all the Indian examinations. But then the opportunity to France opened up for me. So the advantage was that I had the French passport, which really did help, even though my level in French was not exceptional. I had to carry out all my education in France in French. So it was challenging because when I went after my 12th grade, um, of course, I had maybe level A2 in French, but this was not sufficient to actually meet all the expectations or all the classes and follow everything completely in French. And in France, they have a system which is called classe préparatoire, which is basically to train students in France to get into the grande école, as they call the big engineering schools in France. And it is a very prestigious, you can say, path to follow, but indeed requires you to pass examinations after 2 years. So the first 2 years that I did after my 12th grade are these 2 years, which basically are like a bachelor's of engineering, but crammed into 2 years. And after these 2 years, you pass entrance exams for different kinds of universities all across France, of course, which is much more based on critical thinking and really assessments. So you have one exam per subject for 4 hours. For example, it's not one examination, which is all multiple choice, for example, in IIT JEE in India. And this was definitely very challenging for me because these exams lasted 1 week for one group of schools, every day, 8 hours of examination per day. And then once you qualify and get a ranking based on this 2 years, then you get admitted to a grande école or a big engineering school in France, which then allows you to basically, of course, find your specialization. But then in 3 more years, you get your master's degree. So in total of 5 years, I received my master's degree in mechanical engineering, which also allowed me to have experience in different internships, but also you can say an Erasmus program where I went to, for example, Spain, Barcelona, where I specialized in aerospace systems. So I got kind of the best of both worlds, the mechanical engineering aspect and also the aerospace engineering. And it was very challenging, as I mentioned earlier, because it was all in French. And I would not suggest this to anyone else coming from India to, for example, do the same process as me. And unfortunately, in France, you don't really have too many English speaking masters or bachelor's program combined with masters right after your 12th grade, which is 100% in English, except maybe 2 or 3 universities. So I would highly suggest if you do a specialized master's after your bachelor's in India, for example, to pursue engineering in France, definitely. But I think right after your 12th grade, it can be pretty difficult if you don't have a good level in French, for example, to get into the top universities in France, for instance. So yeah, that's, I think, to summarize it. It was very challenging because I thought it was my way out of Indian examination system. But in the end of the day, I did not write the JE, but then 2 years later, I had to write really difficult examinations anyways. So I tried to take the easy way out, but in the end, there was no easy way. So just a small insight into how it went through for me. Yeah. Thank you.
Your piece of advice will be incredibly helpful to anyone planning on going abroad. Now, a second question to Mr. Rahul. According to you, what are some things that students should note who are aspiring to get into the field of user interface or UI and UX, even design as a whole when they first start out in the industry?
Yeah, a couple of things maybe if somebody who wants to get into design, generally designers have a very good knack of solving problems. So if you're someone who finds a problem and can't sit with it and wants to solve it, you're someone who should get into the field, right? So generally designers try to have a very good sense of craft. So if you know people like Steve Jobs, Johnny Ive, they're all designers at heart, right? Something which looks good, feels good, is easy to use, looks elegant, right? All those qualities are essential for a UX designer, and anybody can become a designer, right? As long as you're empathetic and you want to solve problems for people, I feel like anybody can get in the design field. It's not a field where there are certain physical requirements, or as long as you're good with people and emotions, anybody could get into the field of design. Now, there are many ways of going about getting into the field. One is you can actually study yourself. There are a lot of designers in India, I would say, who do engineering and study design on their own, or there are formal degrees or courses. For example, what I have done. So I've done a bachelor's in design in at PES University, which is a formal way of going about things, right? And today in India, most of the engineering schools have design courses now. That's your IITs, your BITS, right? Your even your colleges in Karnataka, right? PES, BMS, all of them now have design schools, because design in India right now has really picked up, because the number of tech startups jobs now actually realize the value of design and how a good user interface, a good user experience can affect a business. So yeah, in India it's just picking up. There's the in fact the demand and supply is such that engineers, there are so many engineers we churn out in a day, right? Because the intake for engineering schools is so much, but designers, there are only 40 designers in a college classroom, right? And it is made to be that way, because it is a field which is very subjective, which requires a lot of hands-on work. um, right? So the demand and the number of people doing a formal course and pursuing this career is not as much as you would say your other professions, right? Although it is getting a bit saturated right now, but that's just an insight on how to get into the field and what's the field looking like in this day and age. Yeah.
Knowing what to expect can broadly help students to cope with challenges they may face in the future.
Yeah.
My next question goes to Mr. Vedant. You were the school vice head boy of DPS Bangalore East during the academic year 2014 to 15. What were the skills you conferred from that role which you believed helped in your career growth?
That's a really good question. So yeah, I was indeed the vice head boy. You can say when I was in the 11th grade, and actually it was a very you can say competitive process, since I was competing against one of my really good friends who was also wanting to be vice head boy, and the entire process was very tiring. To really convince people to choose you, to vote for you as your school representative. And in the end, when that did get accepted, I felt a sigh of relief that, okay, I've won this, but then what awaits me? And this entire was filled with challenges, also because we hosted the first ever Invictus Fest, along with the head boy of the school and also the vice head girl and the head girl. And it was an very, very time demanding task, which took a lot of my time from my academics, you can say, at the same time. So it really takes a lot of engagement and commitment to take up such a role. But I learned so many things, such as we had to go and invite sponsors for this event, for example, invite different schools, design the different events which will happen during this festival, or even maintain the website, design logos. I mean, it covered the entire aspect of what a real project or event might look like. And this really gave me the courage to take up such big tasks or roles. And since then, I've organized several conferences, out of which one of them happened like 4 months ago, where I organized a space conference in France, in Lyon, in the city of Lyon, where there were about 120 people who came from all over the globe. And I had to manage this with a team of about 25 people. And I do not think I would have ever taken up such a role if I did not have this previous background from Invictus, right? Because it requires previous knowledge of certain roles and how you can take up certain responsibilities. And I think I learned a lot of this from this particular experience that I gained at Invictus. But all in all, I feel like when you're a wise head boy, you need to sort of portray a certain role. It's kind of also what a project manager does in a day-to-day life in aerospace engineering, for example. This helped me greatly to be a good spokesperson, and also an inspirational speaker for my peer colleagues or my peer friends who aspire to do something what I did, for example. And communication, I feel, is very key. It's not only about what you say to other people, but also what other people hear. I feel that's something I learned as a wise head boy, and also which actually helped me grow a lot later on. Because a lot of times when you work in teams, you might say something to someone to complete a particular task, but you have no idea what exactly was perceived as information. And that's why it's very important to double check if the person who is receiving has understood the same message that you have delivered to that person. And this, I think, definitely was a very important soft skill that helped me as a wise head boy. And last but not the least, I think it taught me how to be ambitious, because I mean, I was ambitious to win this wise head boy title. And even if people tell you, you cannot achieve something, I think you should, first of all, never listen to what other people say to bring you down. It was my dream to work at the European Space Agency, but a lot of people told me that it was impossible and it was simply out of my league. But I applied to all the kind of positions I wanted to, and I worked really hard to make it possible. And once I did achieve this particular milestone, when I did get into the European Space Agency, I lost a few friends, because some people that did not believe in me or that did not want to encourage me to get there, they kind of felt a sense of jealousy, or a sense of, oh, okay, I told him he couldn't do it, but he did it. So that's something that you need to remember, that when you're going up this ambitious ladder, sometimes you lose people in your life. And I say it as an example, as you're a rocket, for example, at certain heights, when the rocket needs to go further up, it has to let go of its boosters. So some of the people come into your life to help you get to a certain height, and then they need to let you go. So this is something that I learned a lot, I think during these years, but especially started when I was the wise head boy at DPS, for sure.
Your experience is very inspiring, and the skills that you have shared are also really important for every field as well.
Yes, for sure.
Moving on, my next question goes to Mr. Rahul. A core part of design is problem solving. For students who are eager to pursue this field, myself included, could you guide us with your thought process when you are approached with a problem to solve in your field?
Yeah, I think this is a really interesting question because I think there are problems every day, right? For example, a very small problem, right? I'm very lazy to switch off my fan, right? It's very far from my bed. How can I solve this problem, right? Do I buy a gadget where I can just switch it off from my phone so I don't have to get up, right? Do I call my brother, bribe him, right? Tell him to switch off the fan for me, right? So that's what being a designer is. You sort of define experiences for people. Um, and ensure that they're delightful and they enjoy that experience. If talking about my thought process, I can give you guys a few good insights. So when I joined Zomato, I would say right during COVID, the business was down to zero, right? Because nobody was ordering food. I'm sure you guys have that mental image in your mind, right? We were always stuck at home. Nobody's stepping outside. We're scared of touching things, ordering grocery, right? Let alone food, right? Ordering food. You don't know where your food is coming from, especially in India, where you love having chaat from the road, right? Street food, right? It's probably not the most hygienic thing, right? So, our thought process is to understand, so you understand people, right? Understand users. For example, during COVID, we studied how human behavior changed from ordering food. For example, people would not order from unsanitized restaurants or restaurants they do not trust, right? So I think my thought process is, first I want to understand the problem and the people, and what problem are they facing, right? And then we just brainstorm and come up with wild ideas, right? Can I maybe show videos of people cooking, so that they know, how sanitized they are, right? We come up with wild ideas, and then the idea is to just brainstorm and think of anything, right? Like what Vedant said, there is no goal, right? So you think of all kinds of solutions, and then you speak with other stakeholders. Hey, like, what is technically possible? What are things I can do on the app? And then you sort of converge, and then you sort of build experiences, right? So the third part is you actually craft it and experience it and prototype it for people to test and use. Right. So I would say it's a three-step process. I would say maybe research, find out what the problem is, who are the people you're solving it for. Second is, what are the possible solutions and what can I do right now? And third is, test it with other people and then launch it and hear for feedback. Right. So, like I have one more funny story, right? So when we were designing rating experiences for Misho, right? So generally, we all of us know the rating system, right? On any app, you rate from 1 to 5, right? But for people who are in tier 3, tier 4 cities who don't know English, right? So they were giving 1 star rating and they were writing excellent product, right? This is very confusing. So we went to them, we asked them, hey, you've given 1 star, but you've written excellent, right? But they said, Bhaiya, ek number ka product hai. Mujhe bahut zyada acha laga. Right? So things like this, people think in a different way. For different people, you need different solutions, right? So then for them, we gave them WhatsApp emojis, which they immediately related to, right? Because everybody uses WhatsApp. So when they got a bad product, they would say angry, I'm really angry, right? So they would use the angry emoji. If they liked something, they would use a heart, right? So that's how a designer goes. You step into people's brains, and then you figure out, what are they thinking, how are they using certain apps or experiences, and then you solve for them. Yeah. So just a couple of stories from experience I've had.
Your thought process and problem-solving skills are quite remarkable. I am confident many of us can take a similar approach for problems such as these.
Thank you.
Next question to Mr. Vedant. School is like a second home for a student where they are in a protective environment. But we hear in the corporate world there are many challenges one faces. When you transitioned from being a student to working in the industry, what are some challenges that you faced and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I think that's a very important one. I think the first thing that you see is time management, definitely. When you're a student, you're pretty flexible with how you want to spend your time. When do you want to study? When do you want to do other extra co-curricular activities? But when it comes to the professional world, you have to really set a very structured planning as to how you wish to complete certain tasks and when you have to be delivered, how you have to prioritize. I think that's something that you can then apply in a lot of aspects of life, but prioritization is extremely important when it comes to completing tasks and meeting deadlines. And I think additionally, adjusting to the professional environment is very important. So, of course, when you're a student, I always wore t-shirts. The first day I went for my actual job, I dressed up top to bottom with a tie and everything, and I probably looked like a waiter, but it's something that I was not aware of how I should be dressed. in such an context. And so when I went, of course, I tried to observe the environment and how people were dressed and how people were talking, how they were behaving, and very soon you understand the kind of atmosphere and environment you're surrounded with. And then, of course, you have to kind of adjust to this in order to fit into this professional life that you've just started off with. Another important point is, of course, I think the practicality and the theory aspect. So I think you need to stay as much a student even when you go into the professional world. A lot of times people think you're in a professional corporate life, you should not ask questions, that you should know everything. But that's never the case. I think you need to always be hungry to learn more and see of everything as an opportunity to grow yourself. So be open to ask and learn from others, seek guidance, mentorship, enroll in trainings, and learn to take criticism. I think this is something that we maybe don't learn the best in university or in school. Learning to take criticism and to really use it as an opportunity to grow is extremely important. Instead of taking it in a negative manner or being extremely defensive about it, we need to learn how to accept what the other person is saying, and then, of course, try to defend to a certain extent, but also to see how you can improve on those aspects. And last but not the least, I'm not sure if people would tell you the same thing in the US, but in Europe, the work-life balance is very important. So to have a life outside of work is considered extremely important for health aspects, if not anything else in Europe. So people often tell you, put your health first, then the job. You never put the other way around. And no matter how much you love your job, some people are extremely passionate and they forget about a life outside, which in Europe is considered really, really bad. For example, in Germany, where I'm working, 10 hours per day is like the really strict maximum which you can reach. My contract is, for example, 8 hours a day, but I can work up to 10 hours if I like, but not 1 minute more than 10 hours. Otherwise, the company can be sued, for example. So this is something I experienced personally when I was working way too much, maybe even exceeding this limit to try to prove a point to my coworkers or to my colleagues. But know that at the end of the day, if you leave the company and the next day, or if something were to happen to you, the company will not really care about your health. I mean, at the end of the day, it's yourself who has to take care of your mental well-being, your health, your actual life outside of work. So this is something I really suggest all of you to remember when you get into this professional um, work life, because to have this balance is really crucial, because a lot of people told me that it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. You're going to be working till you're probably 60, unless you get out of the rat race, how a lot of people say at 40, you know. But this is why I mention it again. Really do the activities that you enjoy outside of work, even when you're in your professional career. So yeah, these are, I think, a couple of points that are really important to know in terms of differences and what you need to be ready for in the future.
All challenges are pathfinders. Your wise advice will surely be helpful for young minds. Moving on
Yes,
to
thank
Mr.
you.
Rahul. Throughout your years of experience, how did you manage to maintain your physical and mental health to reduce burnout, considering the nature of the industry?
Yeah, this is pretty interesting. So there are two parts. Maybe I didn't do that, and I did. So like I did get burnout. So because I think during COVID, when all of us were just stuck inside our homes, I felt like there was nothing else to do but work, right? And as Vedant said, when you like something, it's very difficult for you to stop, right? So even if I was not working, I was working on some side projects or things I could do in the same field. And eventually that did take a toll on me, right? I didn't even feel like opening my laptop. And Personally, I believe ever since I've this thing that you shouldn't take work so seriously, right? So you, as long as you put in the effort for a limited time and get the work done, it's totally fine. But like I think, just echoing what Vedant said, um, I think you need to spend a lot of time on your health. And lately, I had realized that because during COVID, I was not moving at all. I was stuck inside my home, and that really affected my mental health. But I think as long as I'm moving every day, and doing things apart from work, it just helps me more because then I'm refreshed, the next day to sort of go and give my 100% again. So yeah, I think life is not that serious. It's both a part of having fun and as well as just like doing what you like, right? And but now I do have some sort of control, right? So even if I'm working something and if I'm really enjoying, but I know if I'm past my limit, if it's time for something else, I'll tell myself to stop. And I'm still working on it. It's a bit hard, but yeah, that's what I can say about burnouts.
Indeed, burnout is a regular phenomena people face. Your approach to combat it is nice.
Thank you. Moving on to another question for Mr. Vedant. You have participated in several internships. How important do you think internships are? And could you share some key experiences from them that have benefited your career?
100%. So I think internships for me, I noticed were key to get into the professional world. The first internship, to give you an idea, that I did with when I was at Peugeot Motorcycles, um, I had applied to, I think, 130 positions, and I had gotten accepted for an interview for maybe three of them, out of which I had an offer for one of them. And of course, I accepted the only offer I got. Um, at this first internship, I learned it was the perfect kickstart for my career. I did it in project management, so it was as an assistant project management, and I was very eager to learn. So I people could really see the hunger for me to learn, even though they were not related to my project or my tasks at all. I was very keen on learning the different tasks, how things are done. Basically, I just wanted them to enter all of that information that they have gained over, I don't know, hundreds of years, within the 6 months that I had. And I think this was really appreciated by my colleagues, and they were often always there for me to teach me as much as possible. And the positive environment really helped me to achieve all the targets that I had for this internship, for my personal goals, but also for the company. And this made my, of course, mentor really happy with the kind of work that I did. And something that I always do is I ask for a recommendation letter at the end of an internship, because I also want to know what that person's opinion was on the work that I did and what the person I was, for example, during this time. And he gave me such a great recommendation letter that I used it for each and every internship and job application afterwards. And not to tell you this, but I did not even, for example, write a motivation letter for my job at the European Space Agency. All I did was I submitted this letter of recommendation and my CV, and this was enough for them to actually choose me after 3, 4, 5 rounds of interviews. And honestly, I don't think I could have done it in any other way better than having really excelled at this first internship, because the second internship that I then applied for, I got about 10 to 15 interviews. Then the next one, I got more like 25 to 30, even though the ratio to the ones I actually applied for kind of halved every single time. So the first internship kind of really marked my career and into which direction it was going. It was more in the automotive sector. However, at the end of my second or my last internship at Stellantis, which is basically a cluster of about 15 car companies now, such as Jeep, Peugeot, Fiat, etc., I realized that there's not as much of a future in the automotive sector, at least for mechanical engineering, from my point of view at that time. And this is why the aerospace engineering aspect that I did basically develop when I was in Barcelona gave me really a perfect opening to apply to the European Space Agency with this background of aerospace systems engineering. And these internships actually allowed me to understand what kind of a position I would enjoy, what kind of job I would actually want to get into, which you would have no idea if you were not to do any internships before graduating from university. So I think this practical hands-on approach and really trying a different kind of internship, even though it's not something that you maybe want to do, will of course teach you at the end of that internship if you enjoyed it or not. So I think trial and error for me worked out the best way possible. And I think indeed the practical internship experience is definitely vital to help you shape your career and to choose the actual aspects of engineering or otherwise that you might enjoy. So yeah, I think that's about it from on this aspect from my side.
Your expertise shines through in your detailed explanation about trial and error as well. Thank you for sharing your knowledge on this topic. Now, on to your final question for Mr. Rahul. Your dream to complete 30 countries before turning 30 is indeed inspiring. As an avid traveler, what advice would you give to the viewers who wish to start traveling and take up new adventures?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, other than work, I do love visiting places. I think it helps me for work as well. It's a way for me to sort of interact with different people, learn about different, again, like I mentioned, right? Design is all about looking at problems and see how other people solve them. So, the way I travel is very different. So generally, I would say in a normal traveling setting, you sort of book your flights, book your hotels, make an itinerary. But I think with me and my friends, when we travel, it's we just book the flights and then we end up at that place and then we figure out what to do, where to go, where to stay. Right. So travel doesn't have to be expensive. I've done trips which are extremely cheap. I've done trips which are also expensive. I mean, it doesn't have to be expensive if you want to travel and look at other places, right? So that's what travel is for me. I think it's meeting other people, exploring different cultures, and yeah, every new city I go to, I make friends or I learn about different cultures. So that's what excites me, and that's something which I bring to work, right? If I see an interesting app in, for example, Kazakhstan, right? How is that something which could work in India? Would it work in India? Right? How do people behave there differently versus here? Right? What are the shopping patterns for people outside versus here? Right? So as long as you explore and keep your mind open, I think traveling is a lot of fun, and I recommend everybody travel. I think it's a beautiful thing which everybody should do. But yeah.
Travel should be a part of everyone's itinerary. The way you navigate balancing through your hobbies and your work reflects a strategic and thoughtful approach.
Thank you.
A final question to you, Mr. Vedant. As you mentioned, work life balance is very important in any individual's life in the corporate world. Can you describe what a day in your life looks like and how you manage your work life balance?
Yes, I think that's a very important question. So indeed, as I mentioned, as Rahul was mentioning, traveling being such an important part of his life. Indeed, for me also, I think it plays a crucial role in keeping, yourself motivated. So I am kind of an adrenaline junkie in that aspect. I love doing sports, high adrenaline activities, and I often try to span them out in a time frame of every 2 months, roughly, so that I have something to look forward to. And the advantage in Europe is that I have about 30 days of paid vacation every year. And this allows me to really take almost a month and a half spread across however I like, either if I want it all together or if I want to spread it out and take a vacation every 2 months. And this gives me a lot of flexibility to do this. And this is something I totally agree with Rahul on, is that having this kind of back, if, sorry. So yeah, having like these adventures lined up really help you stay motivated and on track. And I think there's some background noise. Yeah. And yeah, about how my day looks like. I wake up every day at roughly around 6 a.m. I bike. So my workplace is about 7 kilometers from my place. So I often go by bicycle to a gym, which is really close to my workplace. And then after my workout in the morning at about 8:39, I'm at work. And from 9 to 12, 3 to 4 hours, there are often a lot of meetings. So I'm, of course, communicating and exchanging with a lot of different experts in my company. So my job there is to estimate costs of entire missions, space projects. For example, we want to send I don't know, 5 astronauts to Mars in 2038. How much is it going to cost if we need one lander, one spaceship, et cetera, et cetera. So all of this requires a lot of systems engineering, which is basically collecting this information, the technical aspects from all the different experts. And so often my first 3-4 hours of the day are often in meetings and getting a lot of this information. And then, of course, after lunch, typically in lunch in Germany is only about 30 minutes. And then after that, I get straight into getting the work done. So I have about 2 hours of no meetings where I can really get a lot of the work that I actually have to do completed during this time. And then, of course, it goes back into a lot of meetings and brainstorming with a lot of people. And of course, a lot of it is getting your cost estimate approved by the higher management, then for which then it goes to the customer, for example. My role currently in the company, I'm the only one doing my position in the entire company of about 1,700 employees, which makes it very challenging for me because I have to kind of estimate the cost of every new project that the company wants to take over. So in the end, it is very, you can say, time dense. So I work from 9 to 12 and then from 12:30 to like 5, but with minimal breaks, maybe 1 or 2 breaks of like 5 minutes to get a coffee or so, but that's about it. And then at 5 p.m., I'm done. So I head home. And then after dinner, I have time for social activities. So I often go out with my friends or play some sports, such as team sports in particular, such as beach volleyball or basketball. And then I end my day with something that I love to do is like DJing, so really mixing music. And I end it around 10 p.m. roughly to not annoy the neighbors. And then, of course, to bed at around 10:30, and then start the process again the next day. So this is kind of my routinely day-to-day life. That's how it looks like.
Your passion for work really comes through in your answer. It's evident that you bring a lot of enthusiasm to your work.
Thank you. Yeah.
That indeed was very insightful. Thank you. I hope our viewers would have picked up on things they feel are valuable with both the responses. I can say I have. So, should we spruce up things a bit? How about a quiz game?
That's a wonderful
Sure.
idea. We have planned a fun-filled game for our dearest alumni. Shall we begin?
Let's
Yes.
begin with our quiz round. A set of 6 questions will be shown before you. If you are ready with an answer, do raise your hand.
I hope it's visible.
Yeah.
All right. So for our first question, we have given you a couple of hints, and you have to figure out what word they form. Do you guys require any hints of sort?
Yeah, please.
All right. So essentially, the periodic table letters, when you combine them, they form 2 words as spaced here.
Veda, you should get this, man.
Hey, Rahul, you're the smart one. uh,
If you'd like, I can give you the one symbol for one of these.
yeah, please.
You can choose which one.
Oh wait, you want the symbol of the element, right?
They form a word when you put them together in this order given.
First one would be the tin, I'm guessing.
Yes,
Yeah. Okay. And second one is can.
perfect. That's the correct answer. The correct answer is tin can, as
Well done.
symbol for titanium is Ti, where symbol of nitrogen is N, and the symbol of calcium is Ca, followed by again N for nitrogen. For the next
Okay,
question,
yes.
we have a picture of our school campus. It's one of the blocks, and we like to guess the name of it.
Is this beta?
Unfortunately, no, it's not beta.
Gamma?
This is where we did with the dance performance, Rahul. This is the primary school thing building, right?
Is gamma?
Again, it's unfortunately wrong.
What?
I'll give you
I
a
have.
hint. It follows the Greek alphabet.
Huh. Okay, it's not beta or gamma. It's definitely not alpha, right?
Is it?
Alpha.
No?
Theta.
I'll give another hint. It should be a giveaway then. It starts with the letter D. Um, is
No.
that is that it? Or would you like, and you can throw a random guess as well if you don't know the answer. It's a Greek letter. It's name of a Greek letter.
E.
Mm, no, my mind is blank. I can't figure it out.
Yeah, me too. I'm sorry.
All right. So the answer is actually delta.
Okay. This-
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. On to my last question. The last question is, these are three words related to science, and we have removed the letters, of course. So you'll have to fill in the letters and tell us what the words are.
Yeah. So first one is evolution. Second one is thermodynamics. Third one,
Carbon.
I'll give it to Vedant. Yeah.
That's absolutely perfect. It's evolution followed by thermodynamics followed by carbon. I'll now hand over the questions to Tanvi to take.
Okay, so now we have a riddle in front of us. So
By the way, I just
you
want to
have
say
to
it
guess
just
the
feels like
element.
I'm back in school again already.
Yeah, totally.
By the end. But yeah, okay, sorry for interrupting. Go on.
It's fine, it's fine. So the riddle is, which element does not like to follow? So the hint to it is like it has leadership skills, you could say.
Is it fluorine?
Unfortunately, that's not right. Would you like to take another shot at guessing?
Does not like to follow. I mean, I know that fluorine is the element which is not known for liking to follow because it's highly reactive and electronegative. But apart from that, I don't get any other element in my mind. I'm sorry.
So should I reveal the answer?
Yes, please.
Okay. So the answer to the riddle is lead, because lead is spelled out as LED. It leads. So
Nice. Okay.
that was the riddle. Moving on to our next question. So herein we have 4 tanks with a tap which is flowing. Now the hint to this is to look carefully to see tank will fill first.
Fluid dynamics.
Guessing is the third one. I don't know. I don't want to look stupid.
Look closely.
Yeah.
It's not the third one, but you can look closely at the third tank. You might be able to guess it.
Sorry, it's
Which
the
one
second one.
fills
I just
first?
saw there is no hole. Uh,
Oh yeah, it's closed. Okay. Nice. Nice one, Rahul.
The
Fluid
tank number.
dynamics expert.
I'm leading, man. Come on, you have to do better.
That's okay. I want to let you take this win.
Yeah, so as the pipe was not open, tank number 2 gets filled first. Now our last question. So we have your group photo.
Oh,
Can you identify yourselves in the group photo?
yes. I think I'm the second person on the top row next to Sarthak.
I actually can't find myself, which is pretty scary. Hey, I'm right next to you. I don't.
That's Rahul.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, I'm right next to Rahul, actually, indeed.
Yeah.
Top two.
Yeah, so you found yourselves in the group photo.
Now that wraps the game up for us. Thank you so much for playing along. I hope you guys enjoyed this as much as we did. Now, as the quote goes, all good things come to an end. On behalf of our esteemed institution, we would like to extend our heartfelt appreciation to our panelists and alumni, Mr. Vedant and Mr. Rahul, for agreeing to be with us here today. Your knowledge and experience will inspire a lot of the viewers present with us today. Thank you to the students that helped make this event possible. We would like to express our sincere gratitude to our management, our principal, Dr. Manila Carvalho, and our vice principal, Ms. Preeti Suta, HODs of Departments of Science, Aparna Raju ma'am, Shweta Gupta ma'am, Anjali Kumar ma'am, senior mistresses and coordinators for providing us with a platform to interact with our learned and hardworking seniors. We extend our gratitude to Tasneem ma'am and Ragi ma'am for their valuable contributions. Sonali ma'am, HOD English, and Sioni ma'am for their continuous support and guidance throughout our preparations for this event. Last but not least, special thanks to Juliet ma'am, Pooja Ahuja ma'am, and Nisha ma'am for their technical assistance.
Thank you for joining us this evening with such enthusiasm. Have a great evening and an amazing weekend. We are your hosts, Tanvi and Mayur, signing off.